Patrick. I got it. I'll stay here. Is that good? Good, okay. In the late 1980s, I bought a home in San Francisco and proudly hung a rainbow flag outside the front door. My father of blessed memory, who had come a long way on his journey towards acceptance and understanding, came to visit, but was quite distressed. He was worried, he told me, that in a time of anti-homosexual violence, my house with its flag would be an obvious target. I gently tried to explain to him that on my block in the Castro district, they already knew where we live. The rainbow flag, I recently learned, was first flown at San Francisco's Gay Pride and Freedom Day Parade in 1978, an event I actually attended, although I can't say I remember the flag. This now universally recognized symbol of gay identity and inclusion reminds me of other identity markers with powerful associations. In this week's Torah portion, in chapter 15 of Book of Numbers, the end of Shlach Lecha, we are instructed about the mitzvah of tzitzit, the fringes. The Eternal said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves tzitzit, fringes, on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your tzitzit. Look at it and recall all the commandments of the Eternal and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urges. Thus you shall be reminded to observe all my commandments, to be holy to your God. I am the Eternal your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to your God. I, the Eternal, am your God." These verses are the Torah foundation for the mitzvah of wearing a talit. And I want to thank the cantor for loaning me her Gay Pride Shabbat appropriate talit this evening. Well, in the Torah, the tzitzit are presented as a spiritual practice, a physical symbol which helps us recall the commandments, an invitation and summons to holiness. They also have been long understood as a marker of Jewish distinctiveness, a sartorial tribal label. Surely that was their original function. In the ancient Near East, people commonly wore an outer coat or a serape-like wrap, and Team Israelite set theirs apart by adding tzitzit, by adding fringes. Perhaps we should call them the Team Torah logo, a long-lost cousin of the Nike shofar logo. Now, this biblical passage and the mitzvah associated with it were very problematic for modernizing Jews. 19th century American Jews sought to fit into American society and to modernize Jewish practice to conform to contemporary aesthetic and cultural standards. They subjected the entirety of the received Jewish tradition to a rigorous critique in search of what was essential to Judaism and what they could set aside. In 1885, in the famous Pittsburgh platform, my American Reform rabbi predecessors declared, "We hold that all such Mosaic and rabbinical laws as regulate diet, priestly purity, and dress originated in ages under the influence of ideas entirely foreign to our present mental and spiritual state. They fail to impress the modern Jew with the spirit of priestly holiness. Their observance in our days is apt rather to obstruct than to further modern spiritual elevation. Outward signs of Jewish difference, especially hair and dress, were rejected. If their historical function had been to set Jews apart, these modernizing Jews wanted to demonstrate that they could just fit in." In prayer books, the 4 verses from our portion constituted the last paragraph of the V'ahavta section. But these early Reformed Jews were troubled. The Torah's reference to not following after lustful urges, or sometimes even earthier language in some translations, was not what they wanted to see in their prayer books. And since they did not encourage the practice of wearing a talit, its observance in our day is apt rather to obstruct than to further modern spiritual elevation. Editors of early Reformed prayer books either removed the paragraph in its entirety, or, following the example of Isaac Mayer Weiss, the founder of Reformed Judaism in America, he deleted the first 2 verses from our passage and appended the remaining 2 verses to the end of the passage from Deuteronomy that ends, "On the doorposts of your house and on your gates." The mashup of these 2 biblical verses biblical text created a new prayer, never previously known to Jewish liturgy, but which is very familiar to generations of Reformed Jews. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them symbol as a passage, bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them serve as a frontlets between your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to preserve all my commandments and be holy to your God. You can see what I'm talking about if you actually want to look on the very last page of your handout. I had some blank space, so I couldn't resist just including this here. If you want to just compare the historical text and what the Reformed Jews did on the right. Reflecting the general attitude of his time, Rabbi Weiss declared the Talit unnecessary. The ritual directions for his new prayer book in 1866 declare, "It's no more necessary to wear a talit in the temple than anywhere outside thereof. As a memorial, it will suffice. Let the minister wear it." So what do the tzitzit of the talit remind us of, whether we are wearing our own on Shabbat morning, or perhaps you can remember being a child and nestling against your parents, or looking up at the service leaders? For Wise and his contemporaries, its strongest association was a public marker of group identity, a distinction they wanted to erase. But for the classical rabbinic commentators, there's a strong association between the knots and strings of the tzitzit. There we go. Kind of here. They're hidden here. And the 613 mitzvot. Look at them and recall all the commandments. And according to our Torah verse, one of the threads of the tzitzit should be tachelet, or blue. One midrash sees in this blue thread a link to the tablets Moses received at Mount Sinai. Because tachelet, the blue, resembles sapphire, and the tablets were of sapphire. As long as the people of Israel gaze upon this tachelet, this blue thread, they're reminded of what is inscribed on the tablets, and they will fulfill it. As is written, you shall see it and remember. Taught Rabbi Meir, this shade of blue reminds us of the connection between earth and heaven. Whoever observes the mitzvah tzitzit is considered as if one has greeted the Shekhinah. For tachelet resembles the sea resembles the sky resembles God's holy throne, and God's holy throne in turn reflects the Shekhinah. Now, we are more open than earlier generations of Reformed Jews to the possibility of spiritual meaning and significance in external ritual, and in fact, every aspect of historical Jewish practice. And even if the secret of how to create the dye for this shade of blue has long been lost, the meaning of this mitzvah has been renewed for our generation. We have reclaimed the mitzvah of wearing tzitzit. They can serve as an internal reminder, focusing our attention on prayer and spiritual reflection. They can evoke for us, no less than for prior generations, Sinai and the mitzvot. And the lines and colors of our talitot may suggest a far-off horizon, bringing us closer to an unreachable place where sea and sky ultimately merge, and we're wholly in the presence of the sacred. Yuda Amichai did not require a blue thread to imagine the spiritual possibilities of the tzitzit and talit that we attach them to. Why is the tallis striped and not checkered, black and white like a chessboard? Because squares are finite and hopeless. Stripes come from infinity, and to infinity they go, like airport runways where angels land and take off. The blue thread of the biblical tzitzit, the tachelet, and the stripes of the talit, hints of transcendence and infinity, remind me too of the rainbow flag. For my father, it was an identity marker for Team Homo, and one that shouldn't flaunt too publicly. For me, it's a marker of identity, freedom, and pride, one that I'm proud to display. And as a Jew, I'm reminded of the Keshet, the rainbow of hope that appears in the sky after Noah's long, lonely exile in the ark as it floated on unstable waters. The Holy One declares, Et keshti natati ba'anan, v'ata la'ot brit beini uvein ha'aretz. I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Many years ago, Rabbi Lisa Edwards, the rabbi of Beit Chaim Chadashim in Los Angeles, the world's first gay and lesbian synagogue, where Rabbi Martyr was also a rabbi at one time, the first congregation to affiliate with the first gay outreach congregation to affiliate with the URJ, wrote about this verse. You spread a rainbow across the sky as an ot habrit, a sign of the covenant between you and all living things, telling us then and forever that all of us are your creation, blessed and approved by you. Seeing the rainbow flag that we have created, may we recall your rainbow and remember now and always your covenant of love. May we be reminded and always remember how each person we encounter is yet another hue in the rainbow of humanity, the infinite reflection of Tselem Elohim, of you. Ken Yehi Ratzon. So may it be. Amen.